Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout number 429. This is probably going to be, well, it might not be the last time we do anything on Skype, but we're doing it on Skype tonight, mostly because I was in a really, let's just say it was a combination of physical and mental issues that was really not preventing me from, I'm not going to go into details. I did something tonight to deal with it. I didn't take anything to deal with it, but I went somewhere and I got some shit off my chest, and that kind of cleared up the log jam. But I am here. I'm here tonight, and this is Red Pill Nation Hangout number 429. Oh my God. My eyes. Oh my God. Even that, I don't even think V would touch that.
Oh man, I'd have to be drunk and in a blizzard, naked, to snuggle with her. That's freaking Snorlax.
Captain Ahab here. Don't worry, V. I'll protect you. She's got plenty of blubber and whale oil for the masses there.
I don't know what's his worst, the actual fat or the toxic blue hair. Just saying.
Oh, that picture! Oh my God.
Okay, I will get into this, but I saw something on Levi Next tonight about women in 4B and how some women are actually taking it seriously. And this one woman was on there saying, "I'm not going to have sex, and I'm not going to do this." And like Levi Nix is like looking at this woman, saying, like, "What? You're going to tell me that?" Because she wasn't as bad as this one, but she was definitely a land whale, and it was like, Levi Nix is like looking at this woman and like going like, "What? You're going to tell me that was actually a problem with you before this started?"
She's only going on the sex strike and whatever else because it gives her a sense of empowerment. You know how this shit usually works.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so so for those of you who don't know, I have a Patreon as Naroki5. I am currently available at BitChute, Rumble, and by the way, Rumble is generally where I'm going. This time we're making the exception because of where I was at tonight, but BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, MGTOW TV, Bredia, which is still at 99 subs. It just won't go. It's been at 99 for like almost 2 months now. And
Bredia hates you.
YouTube and of course YouTube, which is somehow mysteriously still going up, even though I'm not really promoting the channel at all. I am also at Minds, Gab, MeWe, Facebook, Getter, and TLB Talks. Again, I've been moving away from posting up content because I haven't got the time, and I've been basically sticking mostly to live streams. Although technically we are live streaming tonight, but we're not live streaming at the same time. Just to let you guys know, I will be. We'll hopefully I will be back to doing back to Rumble, because tomorrow I have definitely got to catch up on my Naroki5. That's right. Yes, I do a regular. It's a solo live stream on Naroki5. I will be discussing false accusations on that one, and also with another announcement. Given the horrendously large number of memes that I keep encountering, and a ton of them, I will be swapping, to the best of my ability, I will be swapping between doing a Rookie 5 live stream and doing a memes live stream on Rumble. So that'll be 2 live streams a week over on Rumble, because I somehow just need all the stress and extra work and whatever. I haven't reached burnout yet, V, but I can definitely see, especially if you have to keep doing this like regular for a few months, so you could definitely get burnt out. So, but let's get into the introductions. Of course, with me as always is my partner in crime, Rearson, an individual who wanted to tell me about how selfish and self-centered where people are, but can't stop thinking about himself long enough to actually tell me about it. So, Rearson, introduce yourself.
Okay, well, now that I'm back and trying to calm things down on the home front before any and all of this happens. Yeah, I've known Naroki for too damn long. Fuck. Still going through my red pill rage, and I think I'm actually going to come out of it soon enough, too, though.
Oh, you'll know when you come out of it. You'll know.
Well, I'm dealing with that troubled one. And, no, I'll give you the details afterwards, but, like, much like yourself, you had feelings you thought had been dealt with. Now that I'm actually able to communicate with her a little bit, I'm laying it out, and whatever happens, happens. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Of course.
All
All right. V, introduce yourself, and it's just going to be me and Rearson for the next 30 minutes. So, Rearson, V, introduce yourself, and then you can go. V? Oh, looks like V is unavailable for the next 30 minutes. Okay, so V will be unavailable for the next 30 minutes, so it's just the two of us, Steve. So
I'll end the recording, and then we'll go to the routine.
All right, end the recording. Okay, yeah, topic number 1. And yes, we are breaking these down because Skype has been a little bit temperamental as of late, which is why I switched over to Rumble. Topic number 1. $20 billion environmental slush fund linked to Democratic shill Stacy Abrams. Now, I can't remember the specific organization, but Stacy Abrams was sitting on the board of this particular environmental charity. First question that pops up around this is Stacy Abrams has never said anything about the environment, at least not any really famous quotes. She's been more famous for her racial grandstanding than anything else. This is part of Doge. Like as they go into it, and I mean, this is what we'll probably end up discussing more about on this particular issue will be about Doge than it is about this slush fund, because they are finding. And this is the part that's really pissing a lot of people on the left off, and especially, and I mean, again, I'm going to kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent here. I suspect that Trump is on purpose going after the funds that Soros has either been, the U.S. tax dollars were going into this whole fake Extinction Rebellion and the stuff with woke games and all of the wokeism going on in Hollywood and all of these YouTubers and this is something that I had noticed in particular with some of these woke YouTubers. They would start up and in less than a year they would somehow manage to get like several 100,000 followers in a very, very short period of time.
If I may step in. The 20 billion slush fund was part of the greenhouse gas reduction fund.
Yeah, well, we all know what that was for. Thank you very much. Yeah, Stacey Abrams was linked to that. Obviously she wasn't the only one on the board of that particular thing. Dollars to donuts. That slush fund was paying a rather handsome wage to all of the members of the board of that particular slush fund. Again, right as they are going around and they're going basically from agency to agency in the government, and they're looking to it, and they haven't gotten around. I mean, they've mentioned about possibly Ron Paul editing the Fed, which would be an absolute nightmare for the Fed, because Ron Paul would absolutely not pull any punches in that regard. But I mean, they're still cleaning out the mess. They've also gone off after the Department of Education, and I will tell you, for 430, for instance, one of the topics that is being discussed, and Trump said this literally. We'll get more into this stuff tomorrow on 430. But Trump did tell the universities, and specifically the students in there, if you are here on a foreign visa and you are caught engaging in violence or vandalism, especially woke violence or vandalism, your student visa will be revoked and you will be sent home. Apparently, the people over at Columbia didn't get the message. There's at least 3 students going home. The student union there is demanding that those 3 students not be sent home. They were actually waffling on this until Trump basically went, it's like, you send these 3 students home, or we're going to, Trump has pretty much said he's going to do it anyway. But it's like, you send these 3 students home, or you're losing $400 million in funding. Yeah, it's a pretty easy choice for Columbia to make in this particular situation. The charities and these NGOs and these nonprofits, that whole system appears to be, well, not appears to be, it is clearly being abused in a way to line the pockets of various corrupt people. Am I surprised that Stacey Abrams, who again is not noted for her environmental activism, is on this board and is potentially receiving a rather large payment settlement? Has this $20 billion been returned? Well, some of it had already been doled out. I understand that some of the places that it got doled out were not even inside the United States, but it's like, yeah. Stacey Abrams, I would put her in the same category as that snivelly little Democrat, Beto O'Rourke in Texas. And they just kept trying to astroturf that asshole into a seat in government in Texas. They keep doing the same thing with Stacey Abrams. They keep pushing her up the ladder, regardless of her ability or her popularity or whatever. And am I surprised that she got caught this way? Again, Stacey Abrams might actually be V's type, but V ain't here to respond to that, so we'll just leave that be for now. But yeah, corruption, and again, right, like, a lot of these generally tend to be linked to woke organizations or people who are promoting DEI, or tied to BLM, or tied to Extinction Rebellion, and like all of these, like, I mean, it's like, what, this is the last thing I'm going to say before I turn it over to Rearson. By the time the smoke clears on all of the left-wing parties in the West, it's going to probably take anywhere between 10 and 20 years for these left-wing parties to regain legitimacy. You know, like, they're like, even though they're probably going to try to like ram Gavin Newsom down the towards the U.S. Republic in 2028. And it's going to be very, very obvious that that's what they're going to do. And they're probably, I mean, like, Gavin Newsom is not going to be able to beat whoever the Republicans put up. I mean, even a rhino like Dan Crenshaw would be a better choice. Although I don't think Dan Crenshaw's star has kind of faded a little bit. But yeah, no, the left has done unbelievably bad amounts of damage to themselves. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
God. Stacey Abrams. Good fucking Lord. 1 second here.
Oh, it looks like there seems to be a domestic issue going on over at Rearson's.
Jesus fucking Christ! I gotta get out of this fucking place. Anyway, Stacey Abrams, a woman large enough that V may not want to even think about touching her. I sure as hell wouldn't. And one of the scariest things I can think of her is just she looks at you and she says, "I'm horny," and she starts to gallop and maybe starts to create a herd of other he-fellows who are also in heat, and you're the only thing around. Anyway, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Abrams popped up into our scope when she was running for Georgia governor. Was that not correct?
Yeah. And she also ran for a Senate seat as well. The same thing as Beto O'Rourke. Tried to go after Ted Cruz's Senate seat, and then he tried to run for governor. Oh, and he also tried to he also ran for Democratic presidential nomination, which really didn't go very far.
Yeah, little old Beto, who's not Spanish. Dumbass. I mean, and if I remember correctly as well, too, there's been some sort of connection with Abrams with something that was Soros related. I can't fucking remember what it was. But I mean, this woman is dirty. I mean, absolutely corrupt, greedy, dirty. I mean, really, it comes down to the fact of it being, or the question being asked is, are we really all that surprised? I mean, there's the smell of globalism, funds, money, power, prestige, whatever else. You bet your fucking bottom dollar. And that there's going to be no chicken or watermelon in the immediate area, that Abrams will be all over that like a fat kid on a Smartie. God. I don't know. I mean, this really kind of starts to rank up there with the trifecta, shall we say, when a company starts to go sideways and, oh, look at that. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street are within the top 10 of the shareholders. Shareholders. Shocker. With everything that we've seen of Abrams in the past, this is really shocker, but not a shocker. In fact, it's not a shocker at all. So I'm not the least bit surprised by that. Well, yeah. I can't wait to see the fat ladies. I'd like to see her at the end of a rope, swinging like a hut with a noose around its neck. Oh, that'll be a day long remembered. Anyway, I have really nothing to say on this one except I'm not surprised. So I'm ready to move on to the next one.
Okay, turn it off and then we'll get on with topic number 3.
Okay.
2, sorry. Okay, there we go. All right, topic number 3. Okay. Now, we've also covered this one before on on the show, we covered the whole way the Biden administration and the FBI and whatever staged this raid on James O'Keefe's residences. This was a very clear attempt to try to intimidate him and shut him up and potentially throw him in jail. The only problem is that James O'Keefe always dots the I's and crosses the T's on all his with O'Keefe Media, and this was when Project Veritas was still running. I suspect the Ashley Biden diary issue was the reason why, especially when he broke that story about Big Pharma. They knew they had to shut him down, but I suspect this is what kind of loaded and cocked the gun with them. There was just a whole bunch of legal issues around that raid to James O'Keefe's residence and the things they took and whatever, that suggested that this was more of an attempt to shake him down and intimidate him and shut him up, as opposed to actually the diary, because the diary apparently really didn't have all that much. And James O'Keefe had publicly and legally stated that they hadn't actually confirmed the authenticity of the diary. Now, the fact that the DOJ and the FBI cracked down and not only went after O'Keefe, but went after a couple of O'Keefe's associates around this diary suggests that there is something there. However, knowing how the Biden administration acted, this might have just been, again, this is part of the reason why O'Keefe is so careful with everything that he handles, because this may have just been something that was sent to him to set him up to potentially get him shut down or whatever later on down the line, because he, this could have, I don't know what the word would be used for, but a red herring or whatever, but something that was replanted on James O'Keefe, which would give the government legal reason to shut him down and potentially even throw him in jail. In fact, topic number 3, we'll also be talking about that when it comes to Andrew Tate. But the whole Ash, again, there are some very incriminating, and given the way Hunter Biden acted, there is actually some legitimacy to this, especially when you discuss the issue with the way certain rich and powerful people have acted over the years towards younger people and whatever. The fact that not Ashley Biden, Hunter Biden, that video, that was those two, that one Asian girl that he was with in that video, and I've never actually seen the video, not that I can recall, but I've seen shots of it. That girl looks like she is underage, and I need to emphasize this. Hunter Biden is not a young man. Hunter Biden is in his 50s, late 40s or early 50s. So he's not a baby. He's not an irresponsible child. Had he not had a well-connected political and not come from a well-connected political family, he would have probably died a junkie death probably, 10, 15, 20 years ago. There's no way this did not come from what went down with James O'Keefe did not come down directly from the White House. Not a big surprise, because they kept this open. He was perpetually under investigation for the last few years when Project Veritas got shut down, when he was booted from Project Veritas, and when he started O'Keefe Media. He's been under investigation the whole time. And to absolutely nobody's surprise, now that there's been a change of regimes, and specifically now that you have both Kash Patel and I can't remember who the Attorney General. It's who the Attorney General is at this point. Pam Bondi. Now that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are running the heads of law enforcement, almost certainly Pam Bondi or Kash Patel, probably Pam Bondi, looked at the situation and said, yeah, you're dropping this case immediately. I suspect there's going to be a lot of cases dropped because, again, right, one of the things that the Biden administration was noted for was, using the Department of Justice or using the FBI or using the CIA or using the DEA or the it's the biggest one of the bunch, and I can't remember what the name of it is. Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it is at this point. But I mean, he was using these law enforcement agencies as a way of harassing his critics. And so yeah, and it's no big surprise that that this got dropped. Again, right, I suspect you're going to start you probably have already been seeing like Pam Bondi doing this with a lot of prosecutions that Joe Biden has that the Biden administration was using to shut its opponents down. I'm becoming more and more like, I mean, for instance, it's pretty obvious, like Trump has an almost 80% approval rating for what he's doing. You wouldn't know that, though, unless if you were watching mainstream media, but you do know that if you're watching alt media. Yeah, that's really all I got to say about this. I'm going to find out what the name of that agency is. It's not the DEA. Jesus Christ, I cannot remember the name of it. That agency that monitors all the electronic communications. I cannot remember.
Oh, the NSA.
The NSA, thank you. Yeah, the NSA. Yeah. Using all of these law enforcement agencies as weapons against your political opponents. I mean, banana republics fucking do that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
Let me look at the topic again here. Oh, O'Keefe. Oh, yeah, okay. Let's see here. Well... Well, yeah, I mean, now that Hunter's, now that the big guy is no longer around, and I'm still of the opinion that he was taken out a long time ago, but that's another story. Now that the big guy's not around in one form or another, and they have to, excuse me, and they need to, so what I'm looking for here. There's been a change of the guard, and the country is going in a new direction, in what I would say is a correct direction. Now they can actually start to go through and process things like this properly and correctly. Excuse me. I mean, I've heard of stories that right now there's a civil war of sorts going on within the FBI itself already as it is, much less I'm sure it's the same in the CIA. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't know where this one's going to go. I have no clue. But it will be very interesting over the next little while. It will be very interesting over the next little while to see how this all unfolds. Of which I have no doubt it will be very interesting, to say the least. To say the least. And this is going to be, I know this is going to be but the beginning of this is going to be but the beginning with this is the first of cases like this that are going to be looked into and investigated with. And the only way you're going to stop it is going to be the only way to stop this would be to take out, not that I'm advocating for this one, but we have to talk about the complete assassination of POTUS, the POTUS. Kash Patel, you could replace Kash Patel with somebody else, but Trump will find someone who's going to be just as driven. So you could take the head off of that Hydra, but it's going to be replaced by somebody similar. And I mean, if we thought things were interesting enough with Doge, and it's been interesting so far. Oh, hey, V. Yeah, things have been interesting with Doge at this point. It's going to be even more interesting with more cases or investigations with the cover-up and the whole bit. Or the intelligence agencies being weaponized in the manner that they were over the last not 4 years. The way the intelligence agencies have been weaponized over the last over the last 20 years, I'm sure. But it only makes sense to go after the ones that are relevant immediately. And then you can prep the public for going back further and further and further. So I don't know. We'll see. And I got nothing more to say. So via the topic is the DOJ.
Well, you said one of my trigger words there, intelligence agency.
Yep. So DOJ announces that its investigation into James O'Keefe, Ashley Biden diary story. So, over to you.
They're continuing that, huh? What is there to be investigated? The guy was given a copy. It wasn't even the original, I don't think. He was given a copy, and it was given to him consensually, from what I last remember. Gosh, it's been so long. But the people that should be investigated, because, these people are journalists. These people are media personalities. What information that they get, and it's their duty to share with the world, right? So the people that should be investigated is whoever had a copy of that to give to begin with. So damning O'Keefe, it's just more attack on the First Amendment, just attack on free speech. It's attack on journalism. They would rather make an example out of the journalist instead of the source. And that's not right. There should be no president using the FBI to go and arrest somebody for a copy of a journal, of a diary. I think that's probably in the top 10 of the, most corrupt things that Joe Biden did. It's rather, it's, yeah, I mean, there's some content in there that he doesn't want out, but hey, if it leaks, it leaks. Nobody should be investigated, really. Nobody should be punished. He should punish himself for letting it leak in the first place. And if it was his granddaughter's wish for it to be talked about, then they've got no case. I don't know how much information we have about that, but they've got no case. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, and so, by the way, everybody, I am V. I was here to start the show, but I had to run a very quick errand. And, yeah, I haven't been doing the show because I do not have, well, I do have a Rumble account. It's just that, with me promoting my documentaries, I've had 150,000 views for my documentaries on Facebook, on YouTube. I definitely close to 10,000, probably up to somewhere up to 15,000. But I did make a Rumble account and some of the other small platforms, video platforms. And yeah, I saw growth there as well. On each of the smaller platforms, I have, anywhere from 350 to 500 views on those smaller accounts. So the computer that I have, with those smaller accounts logged in, well, I left that up in Wisconsin. I'm not going to go get that back for another month or two. So I guess I'm going to have to make another Rumble account so I can join you guys here in the future. So, all right. But yeah, that's my piece on that story.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we're done with that one. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Shut it down. Okay. Topic number 3. Andrew Tate. Now that the travel restriction, again, this was to be expected. He's still currently. It's kind of curious, though. I'm just going to kind of roll back a little bit before we get into Tate being in the U.S. currently. The Brits tried to pull an there's still an extradition order that the Romanian government apparently cooperated with when it came to Tate. The only issue is that, that extradition order, again, from a legal perspective, just fell apart once the case against Tate fell apart. And also the women that accused Tate of sexual assault in Britain, their cases also immediately started to fall apart as well, which is probably one of the reasons why the Romanians lifted the travel restrictions. Trump has barely even heard of Tate. The mainstream media tried to lure Trump into saying something about Tate, and Trump's response was, well, I don't really know who the guy is. I'll have somebody in my office take a look at it. Right. But it's like, I'm not going to comment on something or somebody that I really don't know all that much about. It was one of those potential attempts to get into. Gotcha. Ron DeSantis, though, in a very rare L for Ron DeSantis, Ron was like saying he is not welcome in Florida. And it's like, well, first of all, I have to point out that the charges against Tate were dropped. I'm not going to go into the whole backstory of how that case against Tate fell apart. The only thing I am going to say about the case against Tate, that it's hard to convince people that you're holding them against their will when there's clear video of the two women that made the accusations of Tate holding them against their will, leaving the compound with cash and coming back with shopping from a shopping spree. And there's like multiple video, like at least 2 or 3 videos of them leaving the compound when Tate wasn't there. So they weren't being held against their will. As soon as the charges were brought in, they made a statement which was deliberately, from all appearances, misinterpreted by somebody in the Romanian government who was probably paid to misinterpret what was being said. And as soon as their legal reporting was done, they immediately left Romania and didn't fly home because they were so traumatized that they needed to be comforted by their family. No, they suddenly and mysteriously had enough money to go and spend a week at the French Riviera. And then they just disappeared and have never returned. And probably one of the reasons why they never returned is because in Romania, you could also be charged criminally for filing a false report. So needless to say, and like there was a number of reasons why the thing fell apart. The male feminists and feminists everywhere absolutely lost their shit. The British government is obviously not very happy about this because I mean it's very, very clear that somebody or a group of people in the British government want to bring Tate to Britain to throw him in jail. Now, I'm going to be doing on 4:30 tomorrow. I am going to be doing because there has been some very, very curious little things that have happened with Harvey Weinstein's first trial and all the accusations around that. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I mean, what looks like happened is that Weinstein was given a kangaroo court. Now, I personally think that Weinstein is guilty as fucking sin. That's just my personal thing. There's been enough stories about like Harvey Weinstein was like one of those people who would be an asshole to the barista type of an individual, just like a real serious Hollywood asshole. Candace Owens, though, is noted for doing due diligence. Of the conservative women that I know of, Candace Owens is she's a bit of a media hoe and she has made some mistakes. But I mean, I will give her some credit when it comes to issues about the manosphere and issues about males being accused of stuff. She does do due diligence. She just does not go with the media story. And she did do an interview with Andrew Tate. And one of the reasons I think that it happened with her is because like she's pregnant for the third time right now, and all three of her kids are boys. And having talked to and reviewed and interviewed enough people inside the manosphere, and she knows what the issues of the manosphere are, right? She's willing to give the manosphere a little bit more credit. Now, Tate flew to the U.S. Although I haven't looked, if somebody wants to go and look, I'm pretty sure he was on Fresh and Fit. He was also on those two black twins, the comedians. I can't remember what their names are. The Hodge twins.
Hodge twins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do remember Andrew Tate was on Fresh and Fit. Somebody tried to break in. All the girls got fucking scared. You know, the usual, and they go, don't need a man, that sort of shit. And then they were expecting. No, that's right. Tate ran over off camera to deal with the intruder.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was actually, I think that was the last time he was in Florida before all these charges went down. I think I don't know whether he was on Fresh and Fit this time around. Again, okay. Ron DeSantis absolutely spurred down, took an L for this one. You're seeing a lot of conservative and conservative women bitch about this, which kind of, and by the way, I'm going to just say this outright, is part of the reason why the manosphere does not specifically align with the Republican Party. The only reason the Republican Party got the support of the manosphere in the last election is because the Democrats are like just so fucking unhinged and dismissive of masculinity and men's issues and treating, well, I mean, let's not even get into the like choosing the bear and shit like that. It's like there's no way. Although I have actually met people in the manosphere who actually do support the Democrats, they are very few and far between.
Grizzle.
Yeah. So Andrew Tate is, but I mean, yeah, like you're seeing the left is just absolutely losing their shit over the fact that Tate is here. there's people on the right. It is very, very clear when you go on Twitter, for instance, and you look at what is being said about him being here. It is very, very clear which conservatives are just being shells and going with the mainstream narrative, and which conservatives have actually done, like the Hodge twins, obviously. And I'm going to put dollars to donuts that he's going to be on Rollo Tomasi's pod show at some point, because the Tates are currently in Las Vegas. He's got a fairly amicable relationship with Rollo Tomasi. He's probably also gonna go. He probably will go down to LA. I would love it if he went on the Whatever podcast. That would be. I don't usually watch the Whatever podcast because it's like the women on the Whatever podcast, and like if you go on YouTube and you look at the clips that come out of the Whatever podcast, the two most recent ones being it's just clip after clip after clip after clip. It's just like, these women are just being continuously stupid and humiliating themselves. And it's like, nobody is forcing them to do it, by the way. I would love it if he did it. The other thing I'm going to point out here, though, is that, and because this is the reason why I brought up Candace Owens. Candace Owens is currently, or has done, an interview with Harvey Weinstein. She took a look at, and we will be covering this on 4:30 as well. She took, just like how she broke down what Blake Lively was doing to Justin Baldoni, she also got a hold of the court records with Harvey Weinstein and took a look at the Harvey Weinstein situation, and it looked like it was pretty much like Harvey, and I will get into this in more detail tomorrow, that Gloria Allred, and she tried to pull this with Bill Cosby too, by the way. She tried to go for the quick and easy kangaroo court conviction so she could then leverage that criminal conviction into a lawsuit where the real money was. And she also tried doing this with Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby won his appeal, and he's currently out waiting for a second trial. Weinstein also won his appeal, and I'm not going to go into all the details about it, and he won his appeal for a very good reason. One of the reasons why I'm bringing these two individuals up is because had the British government been able to get Tate into Britain, they would probably do, or would attempt to do, the same thing to Andrew Tate that what happened with Cosby and Weinstein. And again, I'm not saying that as a say I support Harvey Weinstein or I believe Bill Cosby or whatever, but like this whole feminist narrative and this whole thing around Me Too is just like, and it started to really seriously fall apart with Johnny Depp and, why am I blanking out again? I cannot remember her name.
What, Amber Heard?
Amber Heard, yes, thank you. Amber Heard. It really started to fall apart with those two. And here's a very curious little issue. What's going on YouTube right now is that anybody who's done anything around Me Too or anybody who's done anything around Weinstein in the past few months has had their videos copyright struck. The British government would probably attempt to do the same thing. Anyway, bottom line here is that regardless of your opinion of Andrew Tate, nothing happened. He's not facing charges. He is not facing any criminal prosecution in Romania. He is a free man. Well, he is a free man, able to travel where and when he likes, and I'm just kind of amazed at the level of willful ignorance that's being done in the mainstream media here, and particularly with a lot of the political right here around him. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, well, what happened? Everything that we said was going to happen actually happened, right? I mean, the only reason why they went so hard at Andrew Tate, not because of the manosphere stuff, okay? They went hard at Tate because he was actually speaking out against the system, okay? The system as a whole, every government around the world, how these elements such as feminism is bringing men to their knees. I've spoken about that all the time. The ball and chain. They call it the ball and chain for a reason. Okay? A man will not take arms against the government if he's got a family to feed, if he's got a nagging wife. Okay? So I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times in my covert communique with the NSA, how they so desperately wanted me to get a new woman. Get a new woman, you'll be happier. Get a new woman. Get a new woman. It's like, man, I'm busy getting on to your asses, okay? This is the reality of the situation. Okay? If I want to start a new life over again, I will, but not till I'm done with you. So, yeah, I just want people to really understand that this is a shell game, okay? Hating on him because of his views on sex is one thing, but the clear message is the system is screwed, and it's because of his level of fame. That's the reason why they went after him. So when they get that level of fame, they go after you if you got something real to say. Okay, we saw what happened to Alex Jones, right? Yeah, $1 billion in debt, right? Okay, so and don't get me started on the Hodge twins. I can agree with some of the things they say a lot of times because I am an educated, self-educated Afro-American, and a lot of other times, yeah, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, which you could say that's some weird version of a conservative. Okay, so I can see eye to eye with them sometimes. Other times I can't, and most of the time they just disgust me. It's like, you guys forget what color your skin is. Race trading, anybody? I know they're mixed, but still, you don't dog out your people in a manner and fashion. You can call for societal improvement, but you don't just straight out just blast your own people like that. So I don't know. It's just some people just forget who they are, and I hope a lot of days that they are reminded about who they are. I really do. I really hope they get reminded. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Rusin.
Yeah. I haven't listened to them in a while. I don't remember why. It's just they tend to fall off my radar. If there's something that does pop up, on YouTube, for example, or if it's something that catches my eye on Rumble, maybe I will, but by and large, I don't. I know that they have been in Calgary, though, at it was that hotel in the south part of the city. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Anyway. More of everything with Andrew Tate. Comes to the U.S. for the first time. Travel ban was lifted. Well, I mean, it was inevitable. I mean, Ron DeSantis, he's not welcome here. Like, what are you going to do? Ban him from coming in through the airport? Not exactly kind of the American thing to do, I would think. You know, what do I know? But Ron's going to do what he's going to do, and if he doesn't like him, well, you're not welcome. Didn't say that they couldn't come in. But whatever. Again, with Naroki being more not a fault. Well, Naroki is a follower of sorts of Tate, but as he has said, he's not a fan of the man. I can't disagree with with enough of the stuff that he says. And it's his use of logic, but with a passion. I guess is probably about the best way to say it, of him being him and for him to believe in what he believes, which there's nothing wrong with. But by and large, much like the Hodge twins, I don't follow him very much. I mean, I've seen him on Pearl's show when she was over in the UK once or twice, but I mean, this is what happens when you've got the intelligence agencies that have, who was it? Gloria Steinem had said she was being funded, supported by the CIA, I think it was, actually, to bring feminism into America. And this was in the late 60s, early 70s, if I remember right. So I would say, and I can't say with absolute certainty, but I would say that those are the people that are most worried about him, as he could set things back potentially. Not to reset back to the 1950s, although that may not really be that bad of a thing. Just most women think they can have it all. And they can, but they have to go in reverse order. You got to have the family first, and then you can, and once the kids have gotten up to a certain point, then you can go into the workforce. But, again, the powers that be don't want people to realize that the more people that are in the workforce, the more you can drive wages down, because you've got twice as many, 3 times as many people. And if someone doesn't like the wage that they're getting, they'll find someone else that will take the job. So, anyway, everything with Tate to me is one of those, I respect the man. I don't particularly care for him, but I respect the man. And that's about all that I can say about it. So, honestly, whatever. It'll be interesting. This is something that is going to, it'll take time, I'm sure, but we'll realize what the whole thing with him will have been all about. It's just going to require, the passage of time. I'm not following it with any level of interest or passion as well, so I just leave it alone, and I'll let other people take up the torch and follow along with it, and let them go with it. So I got nothing more to say. And if we have nothing else, I will end the recording.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, ending right now. This latest one. And Naroki, you are gonna have to post this one. You'll have to post the picture to have the context what this one's all about.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you are officially on the record. Oh, she loves Roger though.
You know what?
You wouldn't go near that one? Oh, why not, V? And now, V, you could formulate your response, and it'll be immortalized because it's going to be recorded.
Well, okay. As far that's a mythical creature.
Do you have a role limit?
I don't. I'm the last person on the planet to fat shame, but that one.
But in this case,
her arms are not long enough to reach parts of her body which she needs to reach in order to be clean. Okay, first off, her arms are not long enough. She has to have assisted living in order to be presentable.
Let's get out of bed. She rivals a sumo. Let's be honest. Like she really rivals a sumo.
That's bigger than sumo. No, that's bigger than sumo, my friend. I don't think she has the muscle mass to do sumo. If she did, she'd be, undefeated.
So putting a donut on the end of a fishing line that she can't reach would be her only way would be really the only motivation for her to move.
She needs to go into that show. What was it called? 600 pounds? 600?
My 600-pound life, yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
She needs to go into that show.
Well,
absolutely has to in order to save her life. I'm speaking from a standpoint she needs to do something in order to save her life because she's gonna die soon. I've never been on the bandwagon of people being too fat and gonna die soon, but this is clearly one of those individuals that is that real exception.
I would say she can't be missed, but I mean I take that back. Ooh.
I love my big girls and all, but at the same time, I like my big girls with the figure, Coke bottle,
not the roly polies.
This one is just she has all 360 degrees of curve. That's too much for me.
Oh, so what you're saying is that she's in shape and round being a shape.
She's too in shape.
She's as filled out as a balloon.
She took the math equation pi very seriously.
more than a few times.
More than a few times.
Yikes.
Yeah, but no, she needs to get help on a serious level. She needs to get help. Whoever that individual is. I know I'm 300. I've slimmed down. I'm 325 pounds, but then again, I'm mostly muscle. I'm ex-football player. I'm ex-lifeguard. I'm ex-military. I'm mostly muscle. People look at me and guess 250. So I know I need to drop weight, and I'm working on it. But that I don't know how she got that big and who's supporting her lifestyle, but wow.
Well, one thing I think we can agree on, she didn't learn the word no. I'm full. No, I've had it now. No,
this looks like an AI generated image, but it's like, I'm sure she wouldn't take any of our comments personally because she's bigger than that. Like much bigger than that.
Oh, she's a much bigger person than that.
Much bigger, yes. Much bigger than I will never be. All right.
She's able to take the high road and the low road at the same time.
Yeah, she'll take the low road much more easily. That's for damn sure. And she doesn't have to walk.
Her pronouns are nom 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 nom.
Her pronouns are
wow.
Gasp for air. That's what her pronouns are.
Oh my God. Okay, are we ready to get into the
I
actual
think we are.
topic
I
here?
think
I
Yeah.
think we are.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
Okay, because this is actually going to be a continuation of 4:30 about this. So we will specifically just talk about Zelensky's visit to the White House. Now it is becoming very, very clear, and Trump and JD Vance exposed him openly for this. Is that Zelensky has a rather obnoxious attitude of entitlement when it comes to all of this money that's being sent over there to him. It's like, I mean, it's very, very, very clear that he has been selling a lot of the government there has been selling off a lot of these weapons to terrorist organizations all over the world. Obviously, if I was Donald Trump, I would not be interested in sending him any more weapons of any kind ever. When we're talking about a photo opportunity, it was very, very obvious. I mean, first of all, one of the reporters got in Zelensky's face because Zelensky's got this uniform. It's a green sweater with khaki pants, and his response to it. And one of the reporters said, you're here in the White House, you're visiting the President of the United States. Do you actually own a suit? Do you own a suit? Why could you not put on a suit to come visit the White House? And Zelensky he's got a suit. He will wear a suit once the war in Ukraine is over, blah, blah, blah. There's also a few other things. And then JD Vance opens up on him. And I'm thinking that Trump, first of all, I mean, the vice president doesn't open up on somebody like that without the express approval of Trump. So this is basically saying, okay, JD, you want to say some stuff to Zelensky, you say it rather than me. That way it's less political fallout. JD Vance ripped Zelensky a new one, and he got Zelensky on the defensive, and he got him and Zelensky started arguing back, and he literally cut off Zelensky, and then Trump actually intervened, and Zelensky interrupted Trump in front of the press corps at the White House. Trump pretty much had his way with them at that point. Of course, the mainstream media in the United States was basically oh, well, he was being mean to Zelensky and whatever. And of course, right, as per usual, people started looking, and it turns out that Zelensky had this rather entitled attitude towards the money he had been receiving, literally from the start. And, I don't think that when they brought Zelensky in like this, that this public I don't think that public dressing down was an accident. I think this is something that Trump has been meaning, because, it was Congress and the Biden administration tried to get as much money into the Ukraine as humanly possible before Trump came into office. there were leaks, obviously, with that the Trump administration leaked to various members of the press and the ones that bothered to pick it up. Noted that Zelensky had been displaying a rather entitled attitude. Now, the reason why he had that entitled attitude is because there must obviously be certain parties in the West that have made some. The way I see it, the way it looks like to me is that there's certain parties in the West that had given him sweetheart deals and said, "Oh no, the money's just going to keep coming, irregardless." One of the things that JD Vance said to him is like, I mean, sorry, how do you convince me that you're going to win this war when you're having patrols go into the cities and into the countryside and literally drag men off the street to go and fight in the front lines? I can't remember specifically if Zelensky denied saying that was happening, but there's like multiple videos of vans just driving up to young men and just like literally grabbing them off the street and throwing them into these vans. So, I mean, if they're in a situation where they're having to just like force men to go and fight on the front lines like this, because men like that are basically just dragged off the street and thrown into vans and taken away, right? Like those are not going to be enthusiastic fighters. Those are the types of people that are going to like desert or surrender at the earliest opportunity. So they're basically nothing more than cannon fodder. Zelensky, God damn it! It's like, what an idiot. I mean, he interrupted Trump. They were supposed to sign a mineral deal, which fell apart. Zelensky got sent away. Like literally, there was like a whole banquet set up, which was obviously now going to be eaten by the White House staff and not Zelensky's entourage. Zelensky came crawling back a day later. Putin, obviously seeing an opening here, he went over to Trump saying, "Yeah, hey, we got the same minerals. We're willing to work out a deal with you." So Putin knows what's going on. By the way, I actually saw the Russian TV coverage of that event where Trump basically dresses down Zelensky. Russian television. Oh yeah, they were having a field day with that one, for obvious reasons. The people in the Kremlin are probably, I'm having to imagine that everybody saw what was going on at the Kremlin and they were just like, oh yeah, you know what? Like this is going to end one way or the other. Of course, they're accusing Trump of being a stooge of Putin, which of course is physically impossible because Putin doesn't have the military capability of taking on the United States by himself. So that fact all by itself means that Trump could not be Putin's stooge. The Steele dossier, which was the thing that allegedly said that the Russian government had leverage over Trump, turned out to be completely fake and phony. In fact, the individual who came up with the Steele dossier is potentially facing criminal charges now. But yeah, they literally tried to accuse Trump. Again, they pulled this out, even though it's been completely discredited. They pulled it out and tried to accuse Trump of being Putin's puppet. Again. Do I really need to get into a suspension of elections, killing of journalists, specifically Gonzalo Lira, otherwise known as Coach Red Pill, a guy that I really had kind of a mixed opinion about, dragging people off the street, the Azov Battalion. By the way, I pointed out the Azov Battalion to a couple people online. I got accused of falling victim to Kremlin propaganda until I posted up the link that the New York Times did about the Azov Battalion. Then, of course, I get the laugh emoji, which is the universal admission of an idiot with no actual argument. But Yeah. JD Vance and Trump. I mean, yeah. It's again, right. Based on the footage that I saw, it looks like Zelensky has kind of got an entitled attitude when it comes to the financial support that he's been getting. And if there's an individual that I think needed to get maybe slapped around a little bit by the Trump administration, it was Zelensky, because Trump obviously does not want this war to continue. Now, tomorrow, we will be talking about how Canada and various Western powers in Western Europe, decided to fully align with Zelensky and the British government. And this has been something that's been floating around. I haven't really brought it up as a topic, but the British Prime Minister literally openly said that he is open to sending actual British troops into the Ukraine. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit more tomorrow, but I think one of the potential tactics here now is that even though Putin and Trump are now obviously talking to each other, because if you remember in the interview that Trump did with why do I keep blanking out about these people? Tucker Carlson. That interview he did with Tucker Carlson, Putin was on the record saying, "Oh no, I haven't spoken to anybody in the Biden administration at all." It's very, very clear that Putin and Trump are talking to each other, and yeah, there's physically no way that Trump could be Putin's puppet again. And I'm going to cover this more, because Trump took a hardline stance against Putin. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago as well. So, he ain't screwing around here. Like, he wants this war to be resolved. And it's very, very clear that there's factions inside the U.S. and in Western Europe, and Trudeau openly declared that he was going to be sending more money to the Ukraine. Some of my money, by the way, and some of Rierson's money is in there, right? To the Ukraine. So, yeah, Zelensky got bitch slapped, and of course he came crawling back and begging to make the deal. I don't know whether the mineral deal was signed or not. It's more than likely that there's probably going to be some renegotiations. And what Trump said after the fact is that it's like, no, we've basically been sending money to the Ukrainians with no promise to pay it back. And this mineral deal is in a way Zelensky's way of paying back some of the money that we have sent him. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say on this. However, I will say that this entitlement was definitely going to clash with Trump. I knew that was going to be a thing, and I can't wait to see the end result of that. Absolutely. Trump has never wanted to be a wartime president. Okay. And I think that's apparent. In his previous administration and now his current administration. So if you're going to be remembered as a president, for being a good president, you need peace and prosperity. And I think that's exactly what he can bring. I hope that he does. No other president, there's nobody on the radar that can do it but him. And I wish him luck with that. And with that, I'll pass over to Rierson.
I took the time to watch video on YouTube of Rubio, and because apparently he was there, and this was on YouTube, and he was explaining what was going on, and everything was perfectly fine. Everything was all civil and cordial and whatever else. And then it came down to Zelensky got triggered because I think it was JD Vance that said something about too many people dying, or you can understand it, and no, you don't understand, and so that's when everything went off the rails. Excuse me. And for me, at the end of the day, this is something that Trudeau, the European Union, this security agreement between the UK and Ukraine, it's good for 100 years. 100 years. And Britain is responsible for Ukraine. Britain will have to give Ukraine some British tax dollars, or tax money would have to be sent to Ukraine. Up until recently enough within Canada, I thought Ukraine was one of the most corrupt countries on the planet. I'm starting to think Canada is a lot worse than we don't know, which is why the Trudeau seems to be hell-bent on supporting it, even though we don't want it. Well, there aren't enough people that wouldn't support this move, and from what I'm seeing of enough of the people I know on Crackbook, they'd be quite happy to continue to support Ukraine. And any lefty that's fucking listening to this, if I stand with Ukraine is the way that you feel about this whole thing, okay, great, no problem. You go do that. Then get your ass on a fucking plane, go to Kiev. I know it's spelled pronounced Kiev, but I'm of Ukrainian descent, but I have no respect for Ukraine, none. I'm much more sided towards the Russians on this one. And let's be honest, folks, this whole thing started way back in 2014 when the predominantly Russian-speaking population of the Donbass region voted to leave Ukraine and become part of Russia. That's when all of this shit started. There was fighting that started from Kiev to keep the two regions in, and then it was through proxy wars, mercenary groups, paramilitaries, whatever you want to call it, up until Trump stepped out of office. And once he was out of office, then Russia could basically go in, and that's what this has all been about. Excuse me. What made Zelensky crawl like a dog to go back in is when I believe that Trump said he's not going to give any funding at all to Ukraine. So the gravy train was up. So he came back in, and I had said this already before. My expectation is that there's going to be some sort of a peace deal. It may not be fully enforced, but there's going to be something in place, something big, substantial, and it's going to be in place by Easter. And we're not that far away, and I think it's going to happen. So I hope it's going to happen like that, and I'm pretty sure that it will. But we got to wait and see. We have to wait and see. Excuse me. So, but I mean, Zelensky has been the global beggar, going from country to country to country. Give me money, and I give money back to you, but the public won't say anything. And let's not forget, folks, Zelensky, with a Ukrainian Nazi, was in the Canadian Parliament. And that was brought, apparently the whole thing was organized by Karina Gold, who is running for, she's not going to win, but she was just there to try to generate more money for the Liberal Party election war chest. It really just shows how dirty, how morally loose Canada is. And I mean, I remember when, what was his name? Lukashenko, I believe, was the guy that was in charge before. Came to Canada during Harper's time, but he was more interested in working with Russia to prop up the Ukraine's economy at the time, and he got shown the door. So your guess is as good as mine. But again, like I said, my feeling is that this whole thing with Ukraine is going to be over very soon. There's going to be a lot of enraged liberal tears. Liberal tears are going to be flooding Western countries that are going to be supporting of it. Oh, and as well within the EU, they are going outside of their budget now, well outside of their budget, to keep the war going, because they're part of what's wrong with all of this. I mean, I don't know who that fucking German bitch is, but she was asked, would you send your children to go into the fight? She said no. So it's one of those, if you can see the bigger picture, if you can see what's going on well above the, if you can see well above what's going on, like a 20,000 foot view at least. I mean, this is, Zelensky was compared to Yasser Arafat, because both men are war criminals in the sense that they're quite, and I mean do mean quite, happy excuse me, to keep things going for the, because that's the only reason why they're going to be in power and to stay in power. And the deep state actors within the European Parliament, the ones that want to keep things going, they're in it hook, line, and sinker. So if it stops, they're in trouble. So that's really all I have to say. And if anybody has anything else, I will end the recording.
Okay, end it.
Here.
Canada is the #1 trade partner of the United States. They are not a financial or economic or physical threat to the United States. Treating them as such is not a wise move. It just isn't. And by the way, it's going to keep Justin Trudeau in power. The reality is that Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservative Party and is excellent, a terrific leader, would be amazing Prime Minister of Canada. Pierre Poilievre has been sinking in the polls since the initiation of the trade war because people in Canada are associating Poilievre with Trump, even though he says he doesn't like the tariffs and doesn't like what Trump is doing. So you know what I would like? I would like lower tariffs with Canada. The United States should articulate to Canada what are the concrete steps that they want Canada to actually take to crack down on fentanyl trafficking across the border. We should actually make a significant ask and then get the ask, you get the win, and then ratchet this thing down because it is not good for Canada and it is not good for the United States. And hell, I don't care much about Canada, but I do care about the United States. When you ratchet up prices on everything from oil to cars because of this, that is not going to be particularly good.
Hey, anytime now. Oh, there we go. All right. So, yeah, now we are into, yeah, this is going to be a rather quick show. We might not even get to 2 hours. Well, actually, between myself and Rirsa, we probably will get to 2 hours on this one. This is going to be a relatively short show again, right? I had to break down this week into two different sections, 428 and 429. Because, of course, the whole situation, there was just so much that went on that previous week that we had to break this down. So, first, we will start out with two issues. Canada might be brought up again at 4:30, Nick, tomorrow. It will definitely be brought up in regards to Western Europe deciding to simp out for Zelensky. Although that might not, that doesn't just apply to Canada. Rob Ford won the federal well, no, won the Ontario provincial election. He called the election early. He's got majority support. He won the election rather handily. Rob Ford, from the very start, backed Justin Trudeau to the hilt over what he was doing. I don't know what Rob Ford thinks he's doing. I mean, Rob Ford could have taken a different route. He could have gone down to see Trump at the White House the way Daniel Smith did. I'm thinking it's not a coincidence, for instance, that Trump has not put tariffs on agricultural or energy exports coming from Alberta into the United States. Like, Trump has not touched that stuff. He has, however, levied some really serious tariffs on anything coming out of Ontario. Like, he's really leaned into Ontario. And part of the reason why he's really leaned into Ontario is because Rob Ford decided to jump on board the anti-Trump bandwagon and call an election to get a mandate. And he's using that mandate to basically go after Donald Trump and engage in this trade war with Donald Trump, which is just absolute stupidity. Again, this is not going to. I'm going to keep saying this. It is very, very clear who in Canada is getting their information from the mainstream media and who in Canada is getting their information from alt sources when you look at this stuff. This trade war is not going to end well. Again, long term, Trump actually wants to eliminate the IRS entirely and go to a tariff-based system for generating revenue for the U.S. government, which, by the way, up until the start of the 20th century was exactly how the U.S. got its revenue. They didn't initiate the income tax until after the central bank was established, the Federal Reserve was established. Coincidence? No, I don't think so. By the way, somebody's really got a lot of static going on in the background. Is that me or is that? Yeah, okay, that's you, Rusin. All right. There is a. Yeah, this is insane. Donald Trump, because Rob Ford has chose to double down on this. Donald Trump is clearly sending signals to the automakers that they need to pull as much of their industrial production out of Canada and bring it back to the United States. That's not that big of a surprise. That's going to absolutely cripple Ontario's economy. And strangely enough, it is going to benefit the Alberta economy because they're going to be getting, because like I said, Trump has not initiated any tariffs on oil and gas coming from Alberta or any agricultural products coming from Alberta. That's because Daniel Smith has been willing to play ball with Donald Trump. So anyway, Rob Ford held an election. He won quite handily. Again, extremely urbanized population in Ontario. I'm going to say there's a major difference between Canada and the United States, which is why Canada has a reputation for being kind of like a big version of California, is because Canada is much more heavily urbanized with its population as opposed to the United States. The cold weather in Canada kind of forces people to, especially and in particular in the wintertime, obviously, kind of forces people in Canada to want to stay closer into where the resources are. So yeah, I mean, in Canada also, because I've been down to the U.S. and I've seen what happens with cities in the U.S. versus what happens with cities in Canada. Even a city like Toronto, like the wilderness, like even in a place like Toronto, right? You get out of the city of Toronto and you get outside Toronto, and like you like literally you only drive like a mile or two and you hit wilderness, right? Like the wilderness, like literally is like right on the doorstep of Toronto, even a city like Toronto or even Vancouver, for instance. When I had to go work up in Fort Mac back in 2016, literally right after the events of what happened with Miss 2016, and this is also something about Canada, is that I had to go work up in Fort Mac for a few days. And even though the city had only been like more or less evacuated for about a week, like you could already see like plant growth starting to overwhelm a lot of the locations there. Like you could see, streets already, like sidewalks already potentially starting to get overgrown with weeds and like vines and whatever already starting to inch their way out onto the sidewalks. And this was just a few days. So yeah, Canada's population is heavily urbanized. Ontario is arguably is the most urbanized province in Canada. Rob Ford is also the brother of Doug Ford. Both of the Ford brothers were very politically astute. They were also fucking thugs, from what I understand. Don't know what the issue with the Conservative Party in Ontario is, and I don't know why Pierre Poilievre, again, right, this is also something that's a little bit different between Canada and in the US. The Liberal Party and the NDP, like the provincial parties are subordinate to the National Party in those two parties, but in the Conservative Party, the Alberta Conservative Party or the Ontario Conservative Party or the one in New Brunswick or whatever, they are independent entities. They both are conservative, but they are independent entities from the National Party. So Pierre Poilievre really can't pull Rob Ford aside and give him a good stern talking to, which, by the way, he absolutely fucking needs. But yeah, he won handily. He got a majority. He's gonna be the premier there for the next 4 years. I personally think he's being an idiot, doubling down on this trade war with Trump, because again, Canada is not gonna win this trade war. Like, it's just not going to. It's just gonna create antagonism and anger. And I'm gonna have to keep pointing this out. Justin Trudeau, and Rob Ford was a prime example of it, but Justin Trudeau is willing to alienate his closest political and cultural ally and turn a sizable portion of the Canadian population against the United States just so that they could stay in power. That should frighten you, right? Like, I mean, like, there's so many intertwined relationships between Canada and the United States that, like, to knowingly try to damage that relationship is the absolute sign of somebody who is just completely, and this also applies to Rob Ford as well, is the sign of somebody who is just completely and totally concerned with themselves and their own power and their own prestige. And I have no choice but to put Rob Ford in with the same category as Justin Trudeau, as an individual who is quite willing to burn and this is a prime example of it, right? To burn the house down just so that they could rule over the ashes rather than turn it over to somebody else. Now, on to topic B. Now, all of this anti-American propaganda has basically forced even the people who are not necessarily Trump allies or not necessarily anti-MAGA or anti-Trump like Pierre Poilievre and Daniel Smith and whatever. Pierre Poilievre has been put in a position where he's had to make some very strong statements against Donald Trump and against the trade war in order to maintain his political base so that the conservatives, and by the way, this is literally the only way Canada survives as a country is if the conservatives get a majority. In order for the conservatives to or get a majority in the House in the next election. And this is Daniel Smith has also had to do some stuff, even though I'm having to imagine it was done rather reluctantly. Daniel Smith is like, for instance, they have pulled him a lot of the provinces have pulled American liquor off the shelves, and it's sort of like, well, it doesn't really affect me because I don't drink. But I can think of a few raging alcoholics who are probably a little bit pissed about their favorite booze being pulled off the shelves. But I mean, that doesn't really affect me at all. But I mean, that's how heated it's getting. What has also become very, very clear, though, is that Trump has also figured out, which is probably one of the reasons why he's kind of started to back off on a little bit of this trade war stuff. Trump has also figured out that Justin Trudeau is using these tariffs as an excuse to drum up support for himself in order to stay in power. And I think Trump would rather be dealing with Pierre Poilievre than deal with Justin Trudeau again, because Justin Trudeau is just like the prime minister over in Britain. They'll be all amicable and nice and friendly when Trump is there in front of their faces, but the moment that their back is turned, they leave, they start posturing and making all of these big, brave pronouncements now that Trump is not around to listen to them, except, of course, that Trump does hear them, right? By the way, I have to emphasize this. I am by no means Team Trump. I've got some reservations about the guy, although I have to freely admit that I agree with most of what he has been doing lately. I think probably also one of the reasons why Trump is having to distance himself from Pierre Poilievre is that I think it's starting to sink in with him that any association between him and Pierre Poilievre is going to be used by Trudeau. Now, I got to emphasize that the Conservatives have not really lost that much support. Like only about 3 to 5% of the Liberals have jumped up, probably about 10 or 12%. Only about 3 to 5% of that has come from Conservatives flipping. Most of it has come from the NDP. The NDP has lost 7 or 8% of their support right now. They will be lucky to actually be recognized as a party in the next election if it was held today. That's how desperate they have gotten. I'm also going to point out something else, and this is something that I found out while I was listening to you guys. The Greens, the Liberals, and the NDP want to ban Twitter outright from Canada. That's going to happen if it's a conservative minority. Things are hanging on by a thread here. Rob Ford was able to call an election and get a majority. Trudeau has been able to bolster his support to the point where it's like they have an outside chance of actually winning the election or at least preventing Poilievre from getting a majority. And that kind of leaves me a little bit creeped out because, again, I said this a couple times on the show, and I'm going to say it again. Anything other than a conservative majority in this next election in Canada as a country will no longer exist as a country within about 4, 5 to 10 years. Because if Poilievre gets a minority, the Liberals and the NDP are going to immediately call a non-confidence motion within 6 to 12 months. There's going to be another election. Will Poilievre win that one? Maybe. Maybe not. But it's going to create a bunch of instability. It's also going to give the Liberals and the NDP the leverage that they require to ram through bills, even though Poilievre is the prime minister. So you will see stuff like the online harms bill, for instance, go through. If it's somehow the Liberals somehow pull off a miracle and actually do stay in power, Carney is going to have to immediately deal with both a separatist movements in Alberta and Quebec. And it's like, I can absolutely assure you, man, like Alberta is it's on a razor's edge in terms of separation at this point. Like, it's that close. It's like the actual percentage of support for separation in Alberta is actually larger than it is in Quebec, which I didn't even think was ever going to be possible, but it's true. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah, I'm just listening to you guys. This is Canada. Yeah, I've got nothing as far as expertise to say on this. I do know it's a bit of a fantasy to actually annex part of Canada. I don't really know if the president has complete authority to do so. I think Congress can shut him down. I don't know. I don't know if we want to gain your problems, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I think it's a fun thought to explore, but yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see. But I really want to know what Rearson has to say.
Chomp, chomp, chomp at the bit. Sorry, just give me a second. Oh, Rob Ford. Yeah, this is that was an election that didn't need to happen. It's the second worst voter turnout in Ontario's election history. Because he had another year and a half or so before an election would need to be called. So there were the overall underlying sentiment was, why the fuck are you doing this? There's no reason to be doing this. And in terms of numbers or government spending, could you remember who Kathleen Wynne was in Ontario?
No, I've heard the name. That's all I know.
She was the premier that lost her job to Ford. Ford is spending more money than she did. His deficits are worse. And Ontario, for its population and its size, its resources, it should not be. It should be a have problem. It's not a have not. I mean, there was the EV battery factory that never materialized. The company went tits up, so they were probably able to stick around long enough just to win the bid, and then they vanished. It's gone. Like there's all this talk that you're going to hear Ford say that, you know, we've got all of these companies coming in. Yeah, they're coming in because the taxpayers are subsidizing their existence. And generally speaking, it takes anywhere from 10 to 20 years for the government to get for the company to pay for itself in taxes that was given to them all those years ago. So Ontario is a very poorly managed province at this point, in my honest opinion. It was bad enough under Kathleen Wynne. It's worse under Ford. And thank you. I did not put the connection to Trump doing his best to bring auto manufacturing back into the U.S. because that's it's a diplomatic slap in the face to Ford, as he honestly deserves, in my opinion. And the whole thing of the tariffs, again, Ford went off full cocked. We got to stand up and we got to fight, and I'm going to be fighting for Ontario and da 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 da. And yet he's got no problem looking at sacrificing Alberta's oil and gas sector for his ego because it's not his resources, it's not his province. He doesn't care. And again, the idiot. This man is such an idiot. I mean, it was Danielle Smith, Alberta's better equivalent of a governor, who reminded Ford that, well, line 5 coming in from Michigan goes into Ontario. So if you want to cut off if you want their oil and gas cut off, guess what? A good portion of Ontario is going to freeze. So the man is an idiot. Like, he's just absolutely fucking stupid. I'm not surprised, but he's an absolute moron. And I bring up the whole thing, and go back to a little bit here about Kathleen Wynne, is that if Pierre gets in, the Ontario voters, again, he needed to win the election, so that way when Poilievre gets in, it'll give him some time to maybe actually smarten up and fix things. Whereas if he was to run for re-election a year and a half later, and if Poilievre is in and he's turning things around, people are going to look at Ford, just kind of go, and what are you waiting for? So the man is a scheming, and I would say a backstabbing coward. I don't trust this guy as far as I can throw him. He's not quite as heavy as that thing, but he is heavy enough. But I mean, he should really be working for the Ukrainian government just because of how honestly corrupt I fully expect the guy is. And I expect that with the fentanyl production, not only in Vancouver, but probably in the GTA itself, I would not be surprised if he's been bought and paid for to just let it happen and not do anything about it. Just my speculation. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was right. I really wouldn't. So there's that. And then Trump distancing himself from Poilievre. It has to be done, because the more that, I mean, to quote, to kind of paraphrase, the more that Trump squeezes Canada, the more difficult it's going to be for him to actually do anything to fix Canada's problems, because Canada's problems negatively impact on the U.S. And if you want to talk about a country that has full-blown TDS, honestly, I don't think you can look anymore as a better example than looking at Canadians. I mean, the Canadian population, for the most part, the ones that believe all of the big bad orange man Cheeto, the orange Cheeto man bad shit, will very easily lose their minds. And as what's his name, Thomas Sowell, anyway, Thomas Sowell has said, basically you cannot use logic and reason when someone's emotions are, when they're incredibly oversensitive with their emotions and their feelings. And that's a great case to that is what's going on, as I said right now, up here in Canada. 51st state and Governor Trudeau. And if there's going to be a place for separation, for the breakup of Canada to happen, it's going to be in Alberta. Like I said, Alberta keeps the equalization payments, so that way Quebec getting over $13 billion and Alberta gets nothing. They've got $13 more billion to spend on their social programs. So anyway, Trump has to back off. He has to separate himself from Pierre. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And I heard this today on David Creighton's YouTube channel, is that everyone's favorite little hyperactive little Jewish lawyer turned podcaster turned simp, Ben Shapiro, has told Trump to back off because he's not making the situation any better. In fact, he's only making it worse. And thank God someone finally has the balls to finally, no, not the balls. Someone actually finally has the sense to put two and two together to realize what's going on. And this is what I've been saying for a little while now. And I mean, we kind of got a hint of it before when Poilievre was asked if he's ever been in contact with the president, and maybe he has and no one's saying anything. But he said it's not my place. And if he was in talks with Trump, his chances of re-election, his chances of being re-elected, much less being prime minister, are gone. Absolutely fucking shot. And he can't afford to do that. I wish he could, but he can't. He has to fall in line with the current other leaders that are saying fuck Donald Trump, and all of that stuff to go along with it. And my honest opinion in Canada here is that there's too many people that I think that should not be voting because they're so emotional that they're looking at anybody else but. Now, I'm not worried right now about that uptick that's been going on with the Liberal leadership race and whatnot, and people are starting to realize, I think, what Mark Carney is all about. So I don't see it happening. But Jagmeet Singh, Jimmy Jagmeet Singh, once again has said he's not going to support a non-confidence vote. So we're stuck. As things currently stand, we are stuck until maybe October of this year. If not, it's going to be October of next year. So at the end of the day, Poilievre has got to start to, he has to be focused on Canada specifically, but more importantly, it has to be more about, well, he has to go on the attack. He will have, and I know he will. They're going to be, my expectation, when it's going to happen, I don't know, but my expectation will be is that there are going to be a lot of smart ads that are going to be basically saying, hey, the Liberals have had 9 years. We've got a problem with this. We've got a problem with this. We've got a problem with this. And we need to fix it, not because the guy south of the border wants us to, but does it not make sense? Crime's gone up, this and this and this and this. How they're going to play with that one, I don't know. But if Poilievre and his campaign team are going to be playing not to lose, they're not going to win. So I'm hoping I can actually see it happening this way as well. I could see it. I wouldn't, if Poilievre isn't able to distance himself enough from Trump, I expect that there will be probably some sort of an offer that Trump will make to Alberta that enough Albertans will look at and say, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's leave. And then away it goes, however that's going to look. Who knows? So, well, much like everything else in politics right now in Canada, got to wait and see, because this shit ain't over this shit's not over anytime soon. And on that note, I have nothing more to say. So, Naroki, if you want to add in your last final thoughts and anything else you want to put into it before we sign out, it's all on you.
Okay, so final. I mean, you need to mute yourself there, Rearson. I was getting an echo. Okay. Two of these topics, 4 and 5, I think, are going to have extensions into 4:30 tomorrow. I'm going to obviously have to do some editing as soon as this show is over, and some downloading and whatever to get photos. The fat chick who freaking loves Roger. That's definitely going to, I think it was the topic. Yeah, it was topic number 2 that we had that discussion. Oh yes, that was getting a special insertion. Yeah, too bad, Roger. You prevented you didn't participate tonight, so that's your thing. So yeah, tomorrow
will not be coming from V. Just saying.
I will stick a V. You're free to go. I'm going to have a quick conversation here with Rearson before I log off. I am going to go grab some actual dinner here. Gonna hop in a car and like drive to a Harvey's or a Smitty's or something, or Denny's or whatever, and actually sit down and have a sit-down meal at a restaurant here because I can. And yeah, but it's been a very it's good to be back in. Just keep in mind we will be doing 4:30 tomorrow, and it will probably be on at like 99% chance it's going to be on Rumble. I'm going to make an effort tomorrow to get that all set up and fixed up so that we're good to go. So with that, we are done tonight. Yeah. Like I said, making preparations for the possibility here. Like I said, anything other than a conservative majority is going to be pretty much the end of Canada as we currently know it. Like absolutely the end of Canada. It's just simply a question of whether it's Alberta or Quebec that leaves first. And with that, I just actually had the yawn here before I continued on. Yep, that is it for tonight. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow on 4:30. Thank you. Oh, wait, hold it. Sorry. One last thing. Patreon as a Roki 5, and of course, all of the regular sites. Like, subscribe, please. The aim here is for me I'm going to be doing this until I die or find something better to do. So, you know what? You might as well give me some support. Yep, we will see you on the next one. All right, now you can stop recording.